Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back to our second of the three-part presidential series as we delve into the leadership styles and experiences of current presidents. Today, we are joined by President of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod's Pacific Southwest District, Reverend Dr. Mike Gibson. President Gibson oversees the churches, schools, and other LCMS ministries in the states of California, Nevada, and Arizona.
That's right, Ashley. Pastor Gibson is a man of many talents who has experience leading congregations, classrooms, conference rooms, mission fields, and an entire region of the country. Let's listen in as he shares his heart for servant leadership and things he's learned along the way to help our listeners on their journeys. Let's get started. All right, so everyone, today we are excited to have a special guest, the president of Pacific Southwest District, Reverend Dr. Michael Gibson. We are so excited. Thank you, President Gibson, for taking the time to be here today. This is an honor. And
thank you.
Oh, yeah, and so I know you've had a lot of roles in your career. We've talked earlier before we started here, just again about different experiences you've had. What do you think has best kind of prepared you to lead the Pacific Southwest District?
Well, I think part of it is I'm a Californian by birth. I've done all of life here. I went to college in Sacramento. I started right out of seminary 40 years ago already now, this summer. And of course, that's kind of like yesterday. But I started in Huntington Beach right out of seminary and then served there for 3 years, and then to Northern California in the Silicon Valley area of Milpitas for 20 years before coming back down to Southern California to Costa Mesa, and then served there 13 years until I was elected in 2018. So part of it is I'm not afraid of this place. I think so many of the people, because one of my big jobs is, we are, myself and my team, we are looking for to build call lists for pastors, church workers of all kinds. And what we constantly are finding is how fearful people are of a mission field like ours. They all think we're crazy. We know we're crazy, but we're okay with it because it's home, right? Yeah. It's home. Yeah. And you can pick on all kinds of things, but don't pick on my home and don't pick on my family, because this is where God's placed us. And it's a mission field that I think we really begin to understand. And because of that, no hesitation about, okay, I think I can serve that. Now, what have I had to learn? I've had to learn Nevada, the whole Las Vegas area, the river cities. That's a whole different world. Arizona, we have all of Arizona in our district as well. So all of that changes things, in how you look at what your job is, who you're representing, because we have, about 280 congregations, 150 schools, 2,800 church workers when you add up everybody that's serving in the various capacities. So it requires some pretty good breadth of just kind of being okay with the mess. Yeah. Because there's a lot of mess, on the mission field. You just have to be okay with things not always being as orderly as maybe sometimes that we'd want. I will say along the way God helped prepare me. I've been married to Kathy for 45 years. Our life and our journey has not been pristine. We've had struggles with young adult children trying to find their ways. I remember telling the district when we were first elected, that if you were looking for a perfect district president and a perfect district president family, you really made a poor choice, right? But what we do understand is we understand grace, we understand mercy. I also understand loss. I mean, not to get negative right away, but or harsh, but I'm an adult survivor of suicide from my mom. So all of those things, you know, Kathy and I lived with infertility. We adopted our boys. God never wastes an experience.
Yeah.
And so he uses everything in order to pull the pieces together. And then, you know, I think at a certain age and experience, you get to a point where the word I use is there's a confluence, kind of like the way two rivers come together. They bring all the stuff that comes with those rivers, and then you learn to draw from those.
Yeah.
You draw from the positives, the excitings, the heartbreak. All of that makes you stronger, wiser, and also completely dependent upon, you know, this God who loves us and walks with us every day. So that's a whole bunch of stuff, maybe all jammed into one, but that's what confluence is, right? Where it all comes together into that kind of a flow of life's experiences.
Yeah, and you know, I love how you talked about that, right? How you know, some people think, you know, I was talking to somebody today. Sometimes our listeners, you know, our students, you know, Concordia undergrad students, they think they have to have it's going to be perfectly aligned, right? Because Instagram and everything makes it look like everything's going to go perfectly. And you're a great example of maybe it didn't go exactly how it wanted, but boy, God sure used a lot to create the leader that you are today.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think that one of the most important things we need to make sure we're doing as leaders, whether we're old leaders like me or young leaders, is to be patient with ourselves. And, you know, to remember what Paul, the Holy Spirit through Paul wrote, that God is at work in us and he will complete what is to be done in us. And it's not necessarily something that we have to do and try to force ourselves. So, you know, it's a learning kind of journey, and
Yeah.
it's not
And
easy, but
it's
it's the
messy.
blessing. Yeah, go ahead. And it's messy.
It's messy.
Yeah,
It's messy. I like
yeah.
that you use that word because life is messy. You don't need some fancy word to describe it, but life can be messy. And so we bring that mess, that's the true selves, into whether it's a leadership role or wherever you are in that mission field. So I appreciate you talking about the patience being necessary. What else have you been able to pull from both your personal experiences as well as those leadership experiences in your, 4+ decades of church work? What
Yeah.
other experiences and traits have really become to influence where you are today in this senior leadership position?
I think a lot of it has to do with the people that I've served with. Every single person has taught me, even those that, you know, say reported to me have taught me. And to go into any circumstance and think that, you know, you're the final word or you're the smartest person in the room is one of the biggest fallacies. You know, because the whole idea of our being able to say every single day God is doing something new in me. He's writing another, you know, whether it's a chapter or it's a page in your story. And every night when you go to bed, there's never a period. It's always a comma, because God is developing whatever the next thing is going to be. And he puts people in your pathway, you know, every single day. Now, there's some days when you just kind of go, you know, I want to pull the blanket over my head and I don't want to see anybody, talk to anybody, be with anybody. And that's when the door gets closed at the office, right?
Right.
But God has a purpose and a reason, and he introduces new people all the time to us. You know, part of my journey too was, you know, I didn't start out as the pastor of a church of hundreds of people on a Sunday morning with a school and 50 people on payroll. I started as an associate pastor on a team where, yes, sir, what do you want me to do? I'll go do that, you know, because it's part of the experience. And then to go to a congregation as I did in the Bay Area in, you know, 1987, when Silicon Valley was just emerging. And, you know, we had we had 90 people in this little chapel on an Easter Sunday, and we thought that was the coolest, biggest crowd you could imagine. And it was me. And it was, then eventually, we had a DCE that was part of our team that was amazing, that supported, encouraged, and guided me. But I used to say to people in the leadership team, you all have too many jobs. You have 3, you have 4 jobs. God is starting to bring people. You got to give some of those up, because we need to pass that around, and we need to spread it around. But all of those things became those ways that God, shaped, gave me the experiences. And then by the time I hit Costa Mesa, and it was the large staff, and it was learning to manage more, and then coming into this office, I have to be district president of a congregation that has 12. And I have a district president of a congregation that worships 1,200 on a Sunday. Right. And they're both as valid and as important. I mean, maybe not as healthy as the other, but it's where the people of God are gathering around the word and sacraments, and we call that a church.
Right.
And so learning to draw on all of those experiences, both large, small, solo, with a big team, all of that is the stuff that God pulls together for that purpose.
You talked about the time, right? And kind of learning, and you didn't step into the big leadership role right away. We talked about in the Townsend Institute, the soil, right? The grace, truth, and time. It takes time to facilitate those, and God developing those skills in you. One of the things that has become a big focus, though, I think, for church workers and everyone lately has been the mental health focus, especially the isolation that can sometimes happen. How do you balance that for yourself, and what recommendations might you have for church workers?
That's a really good question. The whole issue around what we call worker care is one of the highest priorities that we have. We have our wildly important goal, our WIG, using the 40X model in leadership.
Oh, we're very familiar with that.
You're very familiar. Well, I'm glad I just wandered into it for
you. There you go.
But in that, we believe that healthy leaders will result in healthy ministries. Yes. So how do we affect that? How do we make a difference in that? And how do we pour into them, whether it's through coaching or bringing together, as I do? I have a whole team of psychologists that I have available to me. And by the way, Townsend Institute, I need some additional recommendations of those that will say, I don't need 100 of you, okay? but to have more that I can refer people to. And what we do is, we carry a budget, because if there's circumstances where people need help, need assistance, and they don't have the ability to do it, because not all of our church workers have Concordia plans in their insurance portfolio. And so they're limited by what they have available. And so we have that built in, because we know that there's certain people that are just going to need the help, and we need to make sure that we do that. I will say that because of a mom who dealt with depression and as a suicide survivor, because of that, there's a softness in my heart and an awareness of that. Lots of people, and I'll just say, me included, have chosen to go to therapy, have chosen from time to time to say, I'll try one of those medications, because I think it will make me a person that can maybe handle the stress or the circumstances in which you find ourselves. That's not weakness. That's called knowing yourself and knowing that there are needs that need to be in play. So, all of that kind of stuff, we need to be aware of it. We need to be sensitive to it. And we need to embrace each other in it, instead of going, oh, that's a weakness. Boy, that's a problem. Okay, how can I help you heal, restore, get your feet under you,
Mhm.
rather than go, well, you know what, we're just going to set you aside. Now, I don't think there's a spot for you in the kingdom anymore. There always is.
Yeah.
It may not have certain areas of responsibility and such that might come with it while you're healing, but it doesn't mean that God's redemptive work doesn't change people to be able to assist them to become what he does want to do with them in the future.
Without a doubt. And not only is it not a weakness, it's a strength, right?
Oh, yeah.
We talk about that with our students a lot, is that it is actually a strength to recognize the need for help and to go out and seek what that help might be. So I love that you talked about that. Is, stronger individual makes for a stronger worker, a stronger, congregation, organization. It doesn't even matter where you are on that mission field. And like you said, you don't have to be running the school or running the church. Sometimes it's, even those that are in other spots on the field that need that help. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you talking a little bit about the mental health piece. That, of course, again, being such a huge part of our cultural and societal landscape these day and age, and rightly so. Glad to hear it's getting more attention. What other pieces of the changing culture and landscape are kind of in your frame of view now, and what strategies are you using to keep the church abreast of those changes that are happening, but also rooted in its deep historical mission?
That's a really good question, and it's something that we had to be very conscious about on how we were going to work with this. We believe that in every locale, our churches and our church workers and the people of God who live there, they're the experts of that community. I'm not. My team isn't. Our job is to resource congregations and schools in doing their ministry. They're the ones with boots on the ground. So while we have a few initiatives, our job is to be able to be a support to everybody else in what it is they're doing. And so, excuse me, a little itchy nose. What we ended up landing on was this idea. It takes all kinds of churches to reach all kinds of people. And that we're okay with that. And if I can use a word that people are afraid of in the church today, we're okay with that diversity within the church.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to pick up on your last comment, I say all the time, but we're not going to mess with what we believe, teach, and confess. That stuff is locked in. It is solid. It is going nowhere, and we're going to hold on to it for all that we've got. But what I'll say at our pastors' conferences, I'll say, okay, guys, look, every one of you are going to have similar approaches and different approaches. And because your culture and your context is going to demand certain things, I trust you to do your job and to do it. I mean, you're a called and ordained pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and unless you give me a reason not to, I got your back.
Yep.
And I'm committed to that. And it's this level of trust that, frankly, in our culture today, not just in the church, but everywhere, that doesn't exist much anymore. And I think that has a lot of the reasons why we have these political crises like we're going through. People don't trust each other. Families are divided by politics, all of this kind of stuff, rather than saying there are certain core realities that we hold on to, and we're good in those, and we're not going to have any problems because we can get past the other stuff because I trust you. But then I'm going to look at him and I'm going to say, Ashlie, good for you that you're doing what you're doing where God has planted you. Gilbert, you're doing what you're doing where God has planted you. Now, here's how it's going to work. You're going to have each other's backs. And Ashlie, you're not going to go out on Facebook or on Instagram and you're going to say, well, that Gilbert, what he's doing over there is it's not what it should be. That's not helpful. Now, the church does that.
Right.
But one of the things that I'm thrilled with is here in the Pacific Southwest District, for the most part, we don't have that kind of conflict because I think we all drank the good Kool-Aid. And we really believe this concept that culture is going to be what it is. We have been called to bring the gospel to that culture. One of the things that we teach to brand new pastors is, being in California, don't bring your red state politics into a blue state world, because you have been called to proclaim the gospel, not a political party.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
how do you learn to find your way through that tension? Well, it's by building trust.
Mhm.
As you can speak to the people of God with honesty and clarity about the things the scriptures have to say. And you can avoid going into those areas that are detrimental or creating the conflict that, frankly, we just don't need in the life of the church.
Yeah.
Got enough devil problems where he's resisting what we're trying to bring than to create our own problems with the conflict of lack of trust.
A lot of our students who are in organizations right now, they don't trust the administration, right? They don't trust what's going on with their senior leadership, and so then they don't have the loyalty there to the company and things. So one
Well,
thing,
and then to piggyback off of that real quick, Gilbert, too, what I also like about this is you're speaking so clearly and attunely to our church leaders, which there are a bunch that are listening here too. But those ideas that you mentioned about just your kind of core values, your mission's going to remain the same, but the context in which you live out that might look different depending on where you are and who you're working with. And I think that's great. We have students in our programs and hopefully listeners that are listening that work in the restaurant business, or maybe it's retail, or maybe it's a different nonprofit sector that's national or international. So this isn't, I mean, these types of leadership principles you're sharing, President Gibson, go far beyond church
Yeah.
work sector.
And I believe that, and I thank you for pointing that out, Ashlie, because this is not rocket science. Okay.
No, even
It's
though those at NASA, you can still listen in because there's a lot
yeah,
to.
please. I understand. You guys are way smarter than I am. I remember I'm not the smartest guy in the room ever. But what I've come to know is that basic principles are basic principles, and they
Mhm.
apply across the board. I mean, if I might just give you one of my key things that I do, and Gilbert, if you've heard it before, my apologies,
oh
but
no, I'd love to hear it.
I like to talk about the principle of the car.
Mhm.
Okay? The car has 4 seats in it. It's got a vision seat, that's where the steering wheel is. It's got the passenger seat in the front, that's the relationship seat. The third seat is, well, for lack of a better term, it's product, or it's ministry, it's activity, it's whatever it is you end up producing. And then the fourth one is structure. Now, we've got to have the vision. The vision's absolutely critical. It's pretty clear in the scriptures that where there's no vision, the people cast off restraint. If we don't see what God's saying clearly, then we end up going all kinds of directions. There's our culture, right? But to me, the most important seat is the one that costs the most effort and time, and that's the relationship seat. Because I don't care as a leader how vivid your vision might be. If you have not communicated that to someone else and they don't share it with you and they're willing to follow you, then all you've got's a great idea. So when I'm working with young leaders, I'm saying to them all the time, how you doing in the second chair? And I don't necessarily mean about second chair leadership. There's a different principle there, but I'm talking about the second chair in the car, because this is where it takes time. This is where you sit down with people and talk to people. So my encouragement, this kind of was from what you were saying, Ashlie, made me think of this. If you're a young leader and you don't have trust in you know what? Here's my expectation, or my belief will be that you aren't spending time in the second chair. You don't know your leader. You don't know the person that you're talking to. If that person is coming off and kind of being a little odd or weird, question you ought to be asking is, gosh, I wonder what's going on in her life right now. And where we take time to get to know one another. And once that happens, then you can take, your direction, your vision, your relationship, and then you go, wow, look what we can do together, because what's there? The trust is there, and it's only built in the second chair. It's not built in vision. It's built in the second chair. Now, people will give you a brief amount of time in positional leadership. If you're the boss, they'll go, okay, well, I'll trust you for a little bit. But if you're a jerk, well, I'm pulling that back because I don't have a relationship with you. And then what happens within this whole system of the car is that when things go wrong, one of our first inclinations is to go back to the fourth seat to structure and try to intensify it, clarify it, and make more rules.
Yeah.
Now, the problem's not structure. The problem's the relationship.
The relationship.
And so, whether you're in leadership or whether you're in, counseling or whatever it might be that you are with Townsend Institute, you pay the price in the relationship and everything else is going to take care of it. Now, it's good to have a good idea. It's good to have a product that anybody wants. And it's good to have a structure. But as far as I'm concerned, I coach in polity and organizational systems. But I talk about structure as being nothing more than the hanger that's inside the shirt when you put it in your closet. It just holds it up. It allows it to be and to do what it needs to do. And it doesn't necessarily need to be anything of specific nature. So anyway, that's a long time of rambling, but it's back to, you want to be effective as a leader, you want to be effective as a team member, whatever your role is. Pay the price in the relationship, get to know the person. And in that, you're going to develop a trust where they then are going to trust you for things that you really want an opportunity and a chance to pursue. But you're going to have to risk at some point in order to build that relationship.
Well, and I so appreciate you offering that metaphor too, and really talking to those up and coming leaders who may be listening, because sure, we have a lot that are already in these designated leadership positions, but what about those that are maybe still in college or just out of college and, starting into that career? I think this is a really important lesson to learn is take the time, build the relationship, get to know the leaders. It's not just on them, right? To bring you up, you've got to have kind of some skin in the game too. And in this day and age with the whole internet, social media, instant gratification, sometimes that little token of taking the time is the biggest lesson to learn, right?
That's right. That's right. And when I'm working as a supervisor, I'm not looking for the skill set. I'm looking for the EQ, the emotional quotient. Because I can train you to do the other stuff. I mean, you got to have some capacity, but I'm looking for the internal stuff.
Yep.
And that's the stuff that you don't learn it, you catch it. And you do that by rubbing up against other people who have kind of figured that stuff out before.
I'm just thinking about President Gibson. When I first came out here, right, as a young leader, right, young DCE, I remember my apartment wasn't quite ready, so I stayed with my senior pastor for a month, right? And that's the relationship, right? I really got to know about their family and Pastor Soderberg and all them. It was such a great experience, and then I think that built that foundation. So, as I'm thinking about it, though, you are a leader of leaders, right? I mean, you have all these folks that look to you in different ways, and so I know servant leadership is a big part of your position. How do you model this for other leaders within the district?
Showing up. It's the same answer. I'm going to sound like a broken record. You show up, you take time, you care, and you listen. One of the most important things that I do, and I'm able to do this now with my wife, Kathy, because she retired earlier this year from Concordia. She and I we're gonna do the Route 66 Northern Arizona trip. Okay, I did that recently, within the last year, and all the way across Northern Arizona. And what did we do? We went to visit every single church, every single pastor and wife when we could. We went out to dinner. We sat. We had no fix-it agenda. It was only, how you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on? How can we pray for you?
Yeah.
And the conversations between my wife and a pastor's wife, the privileged blessing of just those two gals who get it, because the hardest job in the church is to be the pastor's wife. because she doesn't have a pastor, she has a husband. And then she's kind of isolated because it's just sometimes weird, right, within those relationships.
Yeah.
And yet to be able to show the caring and the support. And what that really does is I think that kind of thing, visitation, which is really important in the church no matter what, it models servant leadership because it says, I'm just here because you're here. And you matter. And because of that, and tell me your story. What's going on in your congregation? Show us around. Take us for a tour. Let's go eat where you like to go eat. It sounds so silly, but it's the showing up and being interested that I think can impact lives and transform people. I can't even tell you how many people have said to me, I've been a pastor for 18 years and my district president I've never had a district president come and take me to lunch before without being part of a group. Right. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying now what does that take? It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. And if you're gonna be a leader and you want to be a servant leader, then it means that others are going to be more important than yourself. It's the Philippians 2 piece the Apostle Paul wrote to us about. Holy Spirit made sure we know that others are going to be more important than myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that changes everything when people know that you truly have that kind of heart and value them in that way. We talk a lot about, I need to be seen. I want to be valued. Okay. Model it and help somebody else, and they will value you and see you for who you are as well.
We also know that no industry, church work included, is immune to conflict, disagreements, right? Difficult times. So our next question is, how do you navigate the difficult decisions, the conflicts that maybe are present, whether it's within a congregation itself, the district as a whole? Again, when we think about kind of the landscape of politics impacting some of it, how do you navigate that conflict?
The team here will tell you that the first thing that I will say, and all of our wonderful supportive admins will say the same thing when they get a phone call, is, have you sat down and talked about this together? Again, same principle. Jesus modeled it. We call it Matthew 18, right? If you have a problem, what are you supposed to go do? You're supposed to go talk to that person and try to work it out. So my first rule of navigation is, if there's a conflict between workers, conflict between a lay person and their church leader, their pastor, whoever it would be, or a church and school issue or whatever, our first question is always, have you sat down together? Because things don't need to come to my desk until as the last option. And there's a lot of things that need to happen in between. We have also within our district structures what we call circuit visitors. So people geographically who are elected by those congregations for the purpose of kind of helping me, representing me, being the gatherer of those congregations and church workers. But they're also the ones that say, let's sit down together. Let's talk about this stuff. Now, there are issues that rise to the level of my desk where there are significant problems. Those become, sometimes they're personnel related issues. And I, a couple times a year, have to lead someone through a resignation. Maybe, I've been blessed. I have not had to expel anyone, but have been blessed. And I think it's the relationship to lead them through a time where they go, yeah, the right decision is for me to resign. Okay. Those are hard. Those are horrible. We don't want to see any of that happen, but it does. because people are broken. They're sinful. We are, we call it simul justus peccator, right? We are simultaneously saints and sinners. It's just who we are. It's the nature of this thing. And so we live in that as well. But I'll tell you what I have to be careful of doing as the one who has to do this stuff is I have to have confidential individuals that I can go to and say, help me think this through. Help me talk about this. Because it's like anything, if you isolate yourself, it will eat you up. You need to at least have somebody hearing you. And again, what is it? It's a relationship. And it's within that then that you're able to find the balance to be able to do this stuff. And, most things can be resolved with the humility that we would bring to it. But sometimes they can't. And sometimes churches blow up, but we don't walk away from them.
Yeah.
Because Jesus is the Lord of his church. It's his church. It's not my church, not your church. It's Jesus' church. And we get to trust him that maybe there's a bigger reason why this is blowing up. Because there's something we have no idea that he is doing that we just can't see. And so I learned to find confidence in that, even in the unresolvable kinds of things where you just have to live, in that tension.
Wow. Well, as you think about all the leaders and all the different situations that you are put in all the time, and I know now you've been a district president for a while and you've led different organizations. What is something that you have rethought about leadership from when you first started?
Wow. I think when you first hit the leadership kind of thing, I think we end up buying the lie that as the leader I have the answer.
Yeah, it's true.
Now, somebody hired you or called you or put you into the position because they think you've got some answers, so that's good. Because I don't think you get asked to certain positions without people going, well, I think he has something to contribute. I think she's got something she can say.
Yeah.
But if we start believing our press as the thing that I find my value in, rather than saying, when I bring my leadership skills to play, it is for a greater good, not to give me a place where I can wave my flag and help people see me. I think that was something that I know it was something I had to learn. I needed to fail in order to, the old John Maxwellism, fail forward.
Yes.
Right? Fail forward. And that's when you learn how to be the kind of leader that God wants you to be, because I think everybody's leadership is going to be unique. No one's going to be like anybody else, but it's all individually formed. Right? You guys at Townsend, you can teach leadership principles, but it's got to be applied and it's got to be learned in the school of hard knocks of somebody living it out.
President Gibson, we can't thank you enough for the time that you've offered here today. There have been so many nuggets of great information. And it's funny, you kind of started off at the beginning saying, well, I don't want to get so negative in the beginning, but I think sometimes those are some of the most helpful pieces of advice, right? The need to fail, living in the tension, being okay with the mess, right? These are a few of the things that you're shared because, again, that's just part of life and being human. So a couple great pieces here. We always end our episodes, though, with a takeaway tip. So is there one extra gold nugget of information you can leave our listeners with?
Sure. I think the one thing that I always have held very, very near and dear to me was a lesson I learned a long time ago. Someone taught me this: walk through a room slowly. Take time to put a hand on a shoulder, take time to shake a hand, bend down and say, Ashlie, how's your grandma? You told me last week that she was having some problems. Walk through a room slowly. Value every single person you're with.
Yeah.
And in that, you're going to find an opportunity to influence. One of the things that I have right now at this time in life is I have opportunities for influence, but sometimes it's only moments of influence. I don't necessarily always get to make a big impact, but I have moments of influence. But those happen the most effectively when I walk through a room slowly.
Awesome.
That's wonderful.
Oh, and one more.
Yeah.
Put your toes directly toward the person you're talking to. Don't stand there with your feet pointed the other direction like you're ready to be able to run away. It drives me crazy when people do that. If we're going to talk, I want your toes directed at me. I am here for you for this moment, and it's about being present and man, walking through.
That's a great advice. I hope members of your team are listening in.
Yeah. I think that's probably like the most practical tip we've ever had. Is like
It
make
really
sure
is.
your feet are facing.
Put your feet straight forward.
Yes,
I am
yes.
here for you.
I
Yeah.
am here for you. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again, President Gibson. We appreciate it so much.
You're very welcome. God bless you both. Thanks for all you do in helping to form and shape people for where God has them to go in the future.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.